Hello, everyone. Dr. Vicky here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center. We're going to look at the last about week and a half of the month of October. So far, October has been a very active, transformational month. It is the month of the eclipse season, the South Node eclipse season, as it were. And when we're in the South Node eclipse season, we are looking to evaluate what needs to be let go of in order for us to evolve and move forward. And we've had a lot of examples of the kinds of things that continue to happen that in their way impede our evolution as a species. And so we're at a evolutionary crossroads in which we need to decide how we're going to move forward in a new and different way. And so let's continue with the month as it stands here. So let me share my screen with you. Alrighty, just give me a moment so I can pull it up as a excuse me, as a, come on now. There we go. There we go. All right. So we're looking at week 4 and I guess week 5, although week 5 only has like 3 days in it. So I guess week 4 and week 4.5, as it were. We start with Sunday, October 22nd. We have Venus making a waxing trine to Jupiter. Waxing at 13 degrees of Virgo, with Venus in Virgo and Jupiter in Taurus. Waxing trines are trines of self-expression. They have the energy of Leo, right? And of course, Venus was in Leo for months, part of its retrograde cycle. And now that it has moved out of Leo and into Virgo, it has an opportunity to make that trine, that Leo side trine, that creative, self-expressive trine. Okay. And so this is an opportunity to see perhaps creative solutions to issues around relationship and healing. Okay. We also have on Sunday, Mercury ingress into Scorpio. And then Mercury making a waning trine to Saturn. Why it on the same day at 1 degree of Scorpio Pisces. The reason for that is Saturn has been moving retrograde and is now in the 1st degree of Pisces. So whenever something moves into the 1st degree of a sign, it's going to make an aspect to Saturn. And because we're dealing with water and water, it makes a trine. Okay. On Monday, the 23rd, the sun ingresses into Scorpio. So Mercury moves into Scorpio first. The next day, we have the sun move into Scorpio. And then, of course, once the sun moves into Scorpio, we have to have the sun oppose Saturn, right? The sun trine Saturn, just like Mercury trined Saturn. And that happens the next day on Tuesday. Saturday, the 28th, we have Mars making an opposition to Jupiter. We also, on Saturday, have the full moon lunar eclipse, which is also an opposition between the sun and the moon, and adding the eclipse energy with that. And we also have Mercury opposing Jupiter. So there is this energy of, especially at this full moon, of various cycles manifesting themselves, right? We have the cycle of the sun and the moon, which is part of a monthly cycle where we have an opposition. And so oppositions are about awareness. It's the fruition of seeds planted at the new phase of a cycle when the two planets conjoin each other. In this case, for the sun and the moon, we're talking about that very powerful new moon eclipse in Libra. But we also have to include this sort of full moon, new moon, full moon, because it's an eclipse and it's on the nodes, it brings in other cycles as well. Okay, the Mars Jupiter opposition, which is the first opposition that happens on Saturday, is part of a 2-year synodic cycle between Mars and Jupiter. And then Mercury opposing Jupiter, which is a synodic cycle between the two planets that deal with how our mind works, is a year cycle. So we have a monthly cycle, we have a yearly cycle, we have a 2-year cycle, and then we have a nodal cycle. That's all sort of coming to a head with this full moon in Taurus with the sun in Scorpio. If we go to week 5 or week 4.5, however you want to describe it, we have Mercury make a conjunction to Mars. This occurs at 12 degrees of Scorpio. And that happens on Sunday, the 29th. And then the last day of October, 31st, Halloween, Samhain, we have Venus making a waxing trine to Uranus. So we sort of start this period of time that we're looking at with Venus making a trine to Jupiter and ending it with Venus making a trine to Uranus. A perfect sort of almost like talk about wrapping it up in a Venus bow. We're wrapping things up in a Venus bow. So let's kind of look at these one at a time. Alrighty, where are we here? Oops. It's never easy for me, is it? Okay, let's finding the right thing to press here. So we're looking at Venus's waxing trine to Jupiter. It's a trine of creative self-expression. This is occurring on the 22nd. We a couple of things happening right on the 22nd. That vibration is a 39.3 vibration, which is the Knight of Cups. Okay. This cycle began at the Venus-Jupiter synod. That conjunction on March 3rd of this year, 2023, that vibrated to a 12.3 vibration. That is the Hanged Man vibration, and also a vibration connected to the planet Neptune. This conjunction occurred at 13 degrees of Aries. If we remember, at the beginning of the year, Jupiter was in Aries. It was in Aries until I think May. It moved into Taurus. It's been there and will be in Taurus now until next May. But we did have this period of time where Jupiter was flying through the last degrees of Aries, and this was when it conjoined Venus at 13 degrees of Aries. The sign, the Sabian symbol, sorry, for that conjunction was an unexploded bomb, reveals an unsuccessful social protest. An immature evaluation of the possibility of transforming suddenly the status quo. So this speaks to trying to change things before you're actually capable of changing things, before either enough people are considering that this is a change that needs to happen, or it's just you just don't have the power behind the impetus of change here, right? So it's sort of like put a toe in to some sort of rebellion. Of course, the unexploded bomb always sort of brings us back to the whole bomb at the Democratic and the Republican places there on January 6th. That this symbol always sort of brings us back to that. Perhaps we'll hear something about it because now we have this trine of these two planets that started at this particular degree with this particular. It's not necessarily connected to January 6th, but the symbol sort of brings us back to that. So that's what makes me think of that. Now Venus is at 13 degrees of Virgo. A powerful statement overcomes a state of political hysteria. Well, if that doesn't sound like what we're in the middle of right now. The focusing of the collective need for order and structural interdependence into a personage who incarnates the answer to this need. So this is really sort of a call to leadership. And it's trine Jupiter, which is now at 13 degrees of Taurus, a porter carrying heavy baggage, self-mobilization for social advantage. The porter carrying the heavy baggage is somebody who's willing to work hard in service to somebody else in an attempt to progress their own ability to be in society and be a successful member of society. And success is, of course, a personal thing. Some people want to be the king of the world, and other people want, an opportunity to learn something or to something for their family, or, everybody has a different level. But this is that self-expressive trine that reminds us that we have, in a way, the power to change things in such a way that we can progress together. Okay, that's what these symbols say to me. And of course, with the Knight of Cups as the vibration of that day, the Knight of Cups brings good news, right? The Knight of Cups brings the ideal. There's always an idealism in the Knight of Cups energy. And so this is sort of what's being brought forward at this time. And of course, the weeks previous to this, things have been just so intense and so difficult that in its way, this is a bit of a breath of fresh air. All right, let's continue with the 22nd. Okay, here we go. On the same day, we have Mercury ingress into Scorpio. Now, Mercury is the planet of the mind. When it moves into Scorpio, it's very deep and penetrating. Scorpio wants to get at the bottom of things. And this is a great energy for any kind of research, any kind of getting to the bottom of things, figuring things out, going through the icky places, it's more psychologically oriented, willing to go in those places to get the answers that we seek. 1 degree of Scorpio. We have to remember that Scorpio is an energy of relationship. Scorpio is the sign where we relate on an emotional and a physical level with another person, right? It says the symbol for 1 degree of Taurus, a crowded sightseeing bus on a city street, a time of utilizing our mind in an intense and penetrating manner, getting to the bottom line of issues and evaluation of the shadow. This idea of a crowded sightseeing bus, we are all in this together. We are in this together and we can watch it, but we're part of it. And if you just think you're on the outside looking in with this, you would be wrong. You're part of, in some cases, people are part of the problem. In other cases, people are part of the solution. If we look at the ruler of Scorpio, which is Mars, actually Scorpio has co-rulers. It's Mars and it's Pluto. So we can look at both those energies as Mercury moves in, because that Mercury moving into Scorpio is disposited by Mars and Pluto. And so it's going to, the energy of this journey of Mercury through Scorpio is going to have the flavor of whatever symbols we see at Mars, which is the co-ruler of Scorpio, and Pluto. Okay, so Mars is at 7 degrees of Scorpio, and we have deep sea divers, the will to explore the hidden depths of all experiences and to search for primordial causes. This really indicates, sometimes the Mercury and Scorpio, we're going to dig deep, we're going to get to the problem, but we're not just looking at the problem surface or the problem right now. We are digging into the history. We are digging into the history of things. I've been watching Heather Cox Richardson, who just put out a book she's the historian from BC, I think, Boston College, not British Columbia. And she is on this book tour. And what she does is she looks at what's going on in the world right now, and then she looks back at history to see how this happened in the past, how it was resolved in the past, was it resolved in the past, what's the similarities, what's the differences, right? So, and she has like I think 2 million subscribers to her newsletter, and certainly now that she's going on all the programs, she's going to get more and more influential in her point of view, which is very aligned with my point of view, which is why I know about her. But she really is talking about saving democracy, like us, like taking the responsibility of what it's going to take to keep a healthy democracy. And I think that's true of any democratic. I mean, Israel is a democratic country, right? And so we can see Ukraine is a democratic country. So we can see that this fight for democracy, spans the globe, and any of the, I mean, we could see it in India. India is a democracy that's under a lot of stress with Modi because he's such a um, 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 Israel is under because of Netanyahu, and America was under threat because of Trump and his MAGA people in the House. So trying to usurp democracy so we can get authoritarian regimes in there, and that's sort of a thing that's going around the world. There are less democracies now, I think, than there was like 40 years ago. So democracy is definitely under attack, and in order for a democracy to work, the people have to be informed. They have to know what's going on. They have to have the power of the vote. And of course, the people who hold all the cards don't want to do that, because then they'll have to share their cards with us. And we know how they feel about that. All right. So we have the deep sea divers. Then Pluto is at that 28th degree of Capricorn, a large aviary. That is the Pluto of the United States, right? We remember that. But the large aviary is about many, many different voices within a sphere. And so we have this energy with the crowded sightseeing bus, the aviary, and then this other energy of deep, a deep diver, a deep sea divers, like going and what is the ocean but teeming with life. So it's really about exploring the multiplicity and the depths, and perhaps the depths of reasons for things with this Mercury in Scorpio, and there's a lot to dive for, honestly. Then, because uh, Saturn is in that first degree, actually, what is Saturn at? Saturn's at 39 degrees, 0 degrees, 39 minutes, or 39 minutes. We're going to have Mercury make that trine to Saturn. I said Mercury trine Saturn at the first degree of Pisces. This is the disseminating phase of the Mercury-Saturn synod. So this relationship between Saturn and Mercury had a beginning point. Now, Saturn-Mercury synods are a year long. And it says that this began with a conjunction which occurred on March 2nd, 2023, which vibrates to a 12-3. Again, we have this 12-3 vibration, which is the hanged man vibration. But the actual conjunction occurred at 30 degrees of Aquarius, the last degree of Aquarius. And then right after we had this Mercury conjunct Saturn. Saturn moved into Pisces. So this was sort of the last little bit of Saturn being in Aquarius, but it's here now, right? And of course, Aquarius is about raising all boats and democracy and all that stuff, right? So we have deeply rooted, that should say rooted, in the past of a very ancient culture, a spiritual brotherhood in which many individual minds are merged in Okay, sorry guys, hold on one second. I touched something. I don't know. Hopefully you can hear me. Yeah, I think you can. Okay, good. Um, Deeply rooted in the past of a very ancient culture, a spiritual brotherhood in which many individual minds are merged into the glowing light of unanimous consciousness is revealed to one who has emerged successfully from his metamorphosis. This could be each one of us, guys. What have we been through this year? What have we come to understand about ourselves and about the world that we live in, right? This is connecting us to our past. For those of us who feel like we might be from another star system, this can connect us to that as well. So this is the trine that's being created at this time is one of dissemination of knowledge. So what do you know at the core of who you are? What do you need to say? What do you need to express? What needs to be heard? What do people need to learn about where we're at right now? This is an opportunity to do that. So after all the chaos of much of the month of October, at the end of this October, there are going to be these pearls of wisdom that come out. All right. So um, now we're looking at Monday, the 23rd, where we have the sun's ingress into Scorpio and then followed by the trine to Saturn. This is a 40/4 vibration. This is the page of cups. That's the vibration of this day. Um, it says this is a disseminating phase of the Sun Saturn synod that began February 16th of 2023. This occurred at 28 degrees of Aquarius. It says a tree felled and sawed to ensure a supply of wood for the winter. The keynote here is the knowledge and skill used in its natural surroundings for the satisfaction of vital basic needs. Intelligent foresight. Um, so this is the part of the Sun Saturn trine, the Sun Saturn trine. And it is, again, just like the trine to Mercury, is a disseminating trine. So this is about sharing what you understand, what you understand. Okay, where are we here? So the disseminating trine of the Sun and Saturn actually occurs on the 24th, which vibrates to a 41.5. So the initial, well, 41.5, which is the Ace of Cups, right? So we could all use a little, I think, Ace of Cups energy. All right, let's continue here. I don't want to hold you guys too long. On Saturday, the 28th of October, we have Mars opposing Jupiter at 12 degrees of Scorpio in Taurus. Now, as I said before, interestingly enough, that day when we have this opposition vibrates to a 45.9. In the Kabbalah, the 45.9 vibration is found in Geburah. Geburah is the Sephiroth associated with Mars, and it's water, right? It's cups. So it's Mars in Scorpio. So not only do we have the Mars in Scorpio energy with this opposition, but the vibration of the day is a Mars and Scorpio vibration. So we're really sort of doubling down, tripling down on that Mars and Scorpio energy. So it says this cycle began at the Mars-Jupiter conjunction on May 29th, 2022. So this is one of those 2-year cycles because we're dealing with Mars. It vibrated to a 40/4, and it occurred at 4 degrees of Aries. Two lovers strolling on a secluded walk. The progressive polarization of energies needed for fulfilling one's life function. The key word here is a stage of dynamic and unresolved polarization. It's interesting because that was the initial conjunction, right? But the opposition itself, the energy of the opposition is one of polarization. It's about seeing both ends of the spectrum here, okay? Now Mars is at 12 degrees of Scorpio, an official embassy ball. Group consciousness as it flowers at the highest level in cultural interchanges between representatives of an elite ruling class. Keyword display. Says what is evoked is the value of meeting other people at the highest possible level of cultural interplay. Now, this sort of sounds like the elites are getting together and they're going to decide what's happening for us. But the symbol is deeper than that. It's not necessarily about the elites as we know the elites. But it is when we're dealing with the elites, we're dealing in, I think in this term, perhaps, or how I would like to see it, is that the elite of the highest vibrational expression of whomever is at the meeting, right? So coming from your highest place, your highest state, your most, in a way, integrated state, right? And it is opposing Jupiter at 12 degrees of Taurus, a young couple window shopping. Interestingly, that both these symbols have young couples in them, right? And it says the fascination of the youthful ego with the products of its culture. An interplay takes place between the individual and his culture. He is being molded by what he sees and by prospects for growth in social prestige. This is the phase of the socialization of desires. Socialization of desires. How do we get our desires met? What do we desire? Okay. And how are those who are coming from their most elevated place within whatever culture that they're coming from? How does that line up? Like, it's about awareness. So it's awareness of what the youth want, perhaps, and an awareness of those who have reached a higher level of, we'll say, societal excellence, which I'm not talking about the elites. I'm not talking about the moneyed few here. Okay. I'm talking about the higher vibration of each one of us. All right, so here we can see this opposition. Now, this is for the US. We do have the ascendant here at the last degree, 2959 minutes of Sagittarius, right? This is about beliefs. And in this, and apologies to anyone else who doesn't live in the United States, this opposition is happening in the 4th house and the 10th house, and that's the house of security. So there's going to be realizations around our security here in this country. All right. On Saturday, the 28th, we have the full moon lunar eclipse. Okay, remember we have 3 oppositions. This is the second one that day. The sun is at 6 degrees of Scorpio. The gold rush tears men away from their native soil. The passionate search for new values, which at any level promise a more abundant life, in opposition to the moon at 6 degrees of Taurus, cantilever bridge across a deep gorge, the conquest of separateness through group cooperation. It's interesting because the first symbol, the one of the sun in Scorpio, is one of leaving your home, right? Finding, greener pastures, as it was, looking for abundance far away from where you began. The second one is more about cooperation and collective people getting together to overcome an obstacle. And so oppositions bring that awareness, and we're going to see who are self-serving and who are there for their community. Right? That's one of the things that we're going to see with this opposition. And of course, this is an eclipse, so it has consequence. It has consequence. A very, very powerful eclipse. Now, it is a full moon. Full moons bring a lot of emotions, a lot of energy. The moon is conjunct Jupiter in this chart, 6 degrees, close enough. And whenever Jupiter touches a planet, there's more of. So we have a lot of very powerful, more of feelings, while the sun is conjunct Mercury and Mars, and Mercury and Mars is our actions, the actions we take, Mars and Mercury, the way our mind is sort of working out the situation. So we have one side that's illuminated and somewhat logical, and ready to do something. And then the other side is just a lot of big, big emotions. And so this again is a very emotionally intense time on planet Earth. Um, you also have to kind of consider where Mars and Venus are in this sort of chart, for the simple reason that Scorpio is more of a Mars energy, and of course, Taurus is a Venus energy. We have Mars powerfully placed in Scorpio, getting down to the bottom of things, and Venus in the planet of service to others in Virgo. Okay, so there is an underlying sense of uh, what needs to happen, to bring this awareness. It's just a subtler exploration of the themes of Scorpio and Taurus. And Scorpio is about death. Taurus is about life. Scorpio is about change. Taurus is about what needs to remain. Where's the flagpole? Like where are you putting your roots down, right? And so it is this very emotionally deep and transformational energy that's being expressed at this time. And then also on that day, we have the opposition between Mercury and Jupiter. Mercury, the planet of the lower mind, Jupiter, the planet of the higher mind, Mercury, the logical mind, the mind that categorizes and names things, whereas Jupiter is the intuitive, our intuitive facility, our intuition on things, right? It's much more, it's fire. It's a different energy. We have the air, and we have the fire. Okay. So this opposition is happening, of course, in earth and water, because this is the time we're in. We're in the time of Scorpio. We have Jupiter at 12 degrees of Taurus, and we have Mercury at 12 degrees of Scorpio. Says this is the fruition phase of the synodic cycle, which began at the Mercury-Jupiter conjunction of March 28th this year, at 19 degrees of Aries, a magic carpet of Oriental imagery. The use of creative imagination. The symbols invoke the possibility of developing a new technique of perception, a strife transcending an unattached outlook upon everyday reality. This is our ability to look to rise above the conflict and see it in a larger picture. And in that respect, perhaps finding some solutions to the issues at hand. Hopefully. So now we have Mercury at 12 degrees of Scorpio, that embassy ball symbol, right? The elites opposing the young couple window shopping. So the opposition that we had between Mars and Jupiter is in the same degree as the opposition we have between Mercury and Jupiter, right? And these two cycles began at different times. Mars Jupiter started in 2022, and this Mars Mercury Jupiter started in 2023. However, we come to the same place, this awareness of the youthful desire, right? Aligning yourself with that which is considered the best of the culture, and then the best of the culture. So, all right. Okay, let me go back, right? All right. And then on the next day, right? Is that the next day? On the 29th, we have Mars conjunct Mercury at 12 degrees of Scorpio, an official embassy ball. And this is a little bit more of an explanation. I got this from Dane Rudger, and we can see it right here. Here's the conjunction. All right. It says, keynote, group consciousness as it flowers at the highest level of cultural interchanges between representatives of the elite, of the ruling class. At present, the largest unit of social organization is the nation. The symbol pictures the ruling class of such national wholes displaying at least the superficial forms of a concern for establishing permanent relationships in peaceful cooperation. What is evoked is the value of meeting other people at the highest possible level of cultural interplay, rather than with an everyday type of consciousness and behavior. In contrast to the natural spontaneity of the rescue operation shown in the preceding symbol, we have here the image of a ritualized display of power, prestige, and wealth. Relationship has been made hierarchical and institutionalized. Phase 222 tells us that this too is an essential feature in the development of rhythmic give and take to achieve global peace. And so it requires the cooperation of those in power. And perhaps we need to press the issue with those in power. All right. And lastly, we have the Venus Uranus trine. This is a trine of this actually the Venus Uranus trine is a Leo side trine because it's taken Venus so long to get to this point because of her retrograde in Leo. This cycle of Venus Uranus began in 2023. It's a year-long cycle. At 17 degrees of Taurus. It says a symbolic battle between swords and torches. The refusing to depend upon the past, the seeker turns warrior, fighting anew the eternal great war. When Gautama Buddha, having sought in vain for answers to his questions among the teachers of tradition, he sat under the Bodhi tree and had to fight his own battle in his own way, even though it is an eternal fight. The spiritual light within the greater soul must struggle against the ego will that only knows how to use the powers of this material and intellectual world. There is no possibility of escape. It is the energy that arises out of the present moment, the inescapable now, that the daring individual has to use in the struggle. The second stage symbol suggests the salvation is attained through the emergent individual's readiness to face all issues as if there were only two opposing sides. So teaches the Bhagavad Gita. This is the Dharma of the stage of human evolution, a stage of polarization of values. We are at the stage of creative self-expression, with Venus at 22 degrees of Virgo, a royal coat of arms enriched with precious stones, keyword nobility, in a trine to Jupiter at 22 degrees of Taurus, a white dove flying over troubled waters, the spiritual inspiration that comes to the individual in the overcoming of a crisis. The Great War is the war between spirit and the mind. Spirit is fire, the mind is air. The wands are fire, and the sword is air, right? Is the mental, is the ego. Spirit always wins. The spirit of love unites. The spirit of but the energy of the wands, I mean the swords, separates. But it always comes back to being united. And that's part of the creative self-expression of Venus, the power of love. And in Virgo, it's the power of love to serve one another. So that's sort of the energy that this month ends with, which is I mean, to say that we've been through the ringer would be an understatement of phantasmagorical proportions, honestly. It's been a very challenging month, and we've had to bear witness to a lot. For those who were just lucky enough to be the bearer of the bearing witness, to those who had it in their lives and changed their lives in ways that we can't always understand. Unity is the answer to the questions. Coming together to fix the problems that we find ourselves amid. The old ways no longer work, right? The South Node in Libra, it's time to renegotiate and have fairness. We need to get to a place of fairness so that when we move forward with that North Node in Aries, we can all move in the right direction. This is a time for us to be our best selves. And sometimes it's hard because we can easily get pulled down into the morass. Try to avoid that as best you can. It's not about not feeling your feelings, but it's about being very particular about what you let in to your energy field at this time, and do your best work, because that's where it comes down to. We're all going to have to roll up our sleeves and do what we need to do to make this world work for us. And I'm willing, and I know you're willing, so let's do it together. All right, guys, have yourself, oh my God, what a month. What a month. Will November be better? November will be different. November will be different. Remember, this was an 8-month and a 17-8 month, which is about hope, but it's also about as you sow, so shall you reap. So a lot of things came, the other side of things came to fruition for us to see, for us to observe. And now in the next month, which is a 9-month, actually an 18-9 month, we're going to be moving through some pretty dense emotional waters until we can get to December, which is a 1 month, which is the sun, which is realization and illumination. So we're not quite out of it. And it's all a process. So but I think the end of the month sort of wraps up a little bit nicer, a little bit more, there's more of a bow. There's more things getting tied up, instead of as most of the beginning of the month and the middle of the month was sort of like right. Wow, that was very astrological. All right, guys, take care. If you'd like to support my work, you become a patron. The patrons get this before anybody else does. They also get the taroscopes before anybody else does. I have to start working on the taroscopes now, don't I? So much to do. All right, guys, take care. Much love. Namaste.